Hello, am I audible to all of you? Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Surajit. What about others? Am I audible to you all? Can you all hear me? Hello, am I audible? Okay, Surajit. What about others? Why aren't you all responding? Yes, Kelvin. Am I audible to you? Good evening, Prabha, Asya, Nitin, Muhammad, Dilshan, Seher, Rajiv. Okay. So, am I audible to all of you? Okay. Just a second. There is some problem with this. I'm not able to scroll to the first PPT. There is some problem. Give me a minute. So today we are going to study about production function. Okay. So this term, it consists of two things, production and function. So you all understand the meaning of production in economics. What is production? Can you tell me? Okay. So what is production? Please define that. There is some technical problem, so I'll just log out and log in again. Okay. In the meantime, you can just write your answers over here. It is for everybody, starting from Asya. Okay. Please write your answers over here in the chat box. What is production, as according to you? Okay. Just a second. Hello. So am I audible to you all now? Okay. So my question to you is, what is production? Today we'll be discussing about production function. Okay. So production function is a very important function for the firms which are into the business of production, and production can be of any type. It can be like production of a physical good, or it can be a service providing company like an insurance company or a banking company, something like that. Yes, Surajit, you said firm decisions on how much of each commodity that it sells. Actually, how much it should produce. Okay, that is the production function. From raw materials to consumption output. Yes, Dilshan. Prabha says it's a process of to transform goods for raw materials to finished goods. Alright. Yes, it is. So, production function is a function which depends on the various factors of production. You know about the different factors of production. How many factors of production are there in general? Asiya, Muhammad, Dilshan, Sahel, Rajiv, Surajit, Kelvin, Prabha, Najo, Nitin, and Muhammad. How many factors of production are there? Or rather, what are factors of production? Can you tell me? There are 4, 5, 3, 2. How many? Okay, Rajiv says there are 4. Should I hit 9? No. 4 is the right answer given by Rajiv. Land, labor, capital, and organization. And for organization, we use another term that is entrepreneurship. Okay, so entrepreneurship is the 4th factor of production. So these factors of production are very crucial and very important for any organization, and they have been put into 2 categories. One are the fixed factors of production, and the other is the variable factor of production. So as is implied from the name, the fixed factors of production are those which cannot be changed, and variable are those which can be changed. So out of these factors, which factors of production do you think falls in the category of fixed factor of production? Out of land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurs, which is the fixed factor? And which is the variable? Rajiv says land and capital is the fixed factor. Nitin says capital. What about others? Is there anything in the name of fixed and variable factors? Is this concept actually exist? Variable and fixed factors of production? Okay, so moving forward, actually there is nothing as such fixed and variable factor of production. It is just a matter of time. It's like one factor of production. Okay, semi-variable like electricity. It has got a fixed cost and a recurring cost in it. So that is semi-variable. Okay, Rajiv? So actually, like if we talk about a firm, and if we talk in the prospect of long term, in long term, there are no factors of production which are fixed and variable. Every factor of production is variable in the long run. Like we may not be able to purchase a land immediately. Immediately means in a time period of 3 months. But maybe after 3 years, we may acquire a new land, a new piece of land to work on. So from this bifurcation into fixed and variable factor is valid only in case of a short term period. When we talk about long term, in the long term, there is no fixed, no variable, because in the long run, every factor of production can be varied. It can be changed. We can arrange more capital if we need. We can make more money available to us. Okay. So let us first discuss these factors of production. The first one is land. So land is what? It is a natural factor of production. It is a gift of God, something that does not involve any kind of human effort. So it's a factor of production which is given to us by nature. Okay. Then labor. Labor includes the human labor. We talk only about the human labor. That is labor. Then capital. It not only means money, but it also includes the assets of the organization. Assets includes its building, its machinery, its equipment which it is going to use for producing a good, everything that is going to help. That is the capital. And entrepreneur is the fourth factor, and it is not given too much of importance when we talk about production on actual ground. Okay. So now there are two types of production functions. One is the long run and the other is the short run. So machine labor is considered as a factor. Yes, Nitin, it is considered because we are using it for our manufacturing process. So that is also a factor of production. Yes, that is. But when we talk about labor in raw terms, like if you are given a question, define labor. Okay, so in that case, you will not include the machine labor into a factor of production. You will just include the human labor in that. Okay, but practically speaking, machine labor is a part of labor. Alright, so what is production function? It refers to the transformation of inputs or resources into outputs of goods and services. So in other words, production refers to all of the activities involved in the production of goods and services, from borrowing to set up or expand production facilities, to hiring workers, purchasing raw material, running quality control, cost accounting, and so on, rather than referring merely to the physical transformation of inputs into outputs of goods and services. Okay, so it's clear to everybody that production not only means the mere physical transformation. Every process which goes into which forms a part of this production of raw material into finished product will be a production function for the firm, whether it is cost accounting or the quality control, purchasing the raw material, negotiating with the laborers, workers, acquiring land. Everything will be included into the production function. So here are some examples. A computer company hires workers to use the machinery, parts and raw materials in factories to produce personal computers. Okay. So the output of a firm can either be a final commodity or an intermediate product such as computer and semiconductor respectively. Yes, it's not necessarily that it should be a finished product. Finished product like consumption ready product. It can be an intermediate product as well. Something which goes as a raw material into the production of another thing. If I talk about coal, like for the firm which is into the business of coal mining, for them coal is their finished product. But for a factory of like I say factory of slippers or a footwear, so for them they might be using coal as a raw material for running their machinery. So it can be this way. Did you understand that, everybody? Any doubt? So production function is clear to everybody, I guess. So and the output can also be a service rather than a good, such as education, medicine, banking, etc. So now this production function is represented mathematically. So it is in the form of an equation, and the equation reads as Q is equal to F is a function of K, L and LA. So this Q stands for output, F is the function of, or rather it is dependent on. K is for capital, L is for land, and LA is for labor. Okay. So these are the three factors which we include. We ignore the entrepreneur. So if we talk about any firm, in the short run, for any firm, labor is that factor of production which is variable. It can increase the labor as per the requirement. It can decrease the labor as per the requirement. Isn't it? Because in a short span of time, it is not possible to expand the land or expand the capital. So practically speaking, labor is the only variable of factor of production in the short run. Alright. So now there are two different types of production functions that show the possible range of substitution inputs in the production process. First is the fixed proportion production function and second is the variable proportion production function. So in the fixed production function, there is only one factor that is variable and all the other factors are kept constant. And in the variable factor, variable proportion, all the factors are variable. Like more than one factor is variable. So fixed factor is applicable to the short run and this one is applicable to the long run. So in short term, time when one input say remains constant and an addition to output can be obtained only by using more labor. So in this case, we are assuming the capital and land to be the constant and labor is the variable factor of production. But in the long run, both the inputs become variable. And practically speaking, when we come to the analysis on a practical ground, we assume only capital and labor to be variable in the long run also. Like if a company is acquiring more land and it is setting up a new machinery over there and a whole new plant is set up over there. So what do you think? Is it like a part of the same business or an extension of the business? So it will be regarded as a separate thing or the same. Will we include it in the same business or we will regard it as a separate thing? The company has purchased land and they are putting more plants on that. They are in fact making a whole plant. They are putting more machines, hiring more laborers, and they are going for production. So we can assume that it is just an expansion of their business. So practically speaking, only capital and labor are two factors which are assumed to be variable even in the long run. Okay? Any doubts, anybody? Okay. So, alright. So production process is subject to the various phases. You remember when we were discussing the law of diminishing marginal utility for a consumer, we discussed it on the basis of a table. There was a table which was drawn, I think, on the whiteboard. So on the basis of that table, we were discussing. So similarly, this production is also discussed on the basis of a table, and there are different stages in the production of a product. It is not that the production is a simple one-go process. So let us start with that. In the short run, the relationship between the input and output are studied by varying one input, others being held constant. So just one input is variable. It is that which we can change. The law of variable proportions brings out the relationship between the varying proportions of factors of input and output. The relationship between the various factors that will be depicted by the law of variable proportion. And in the long run, production function is subject to different phases described under the law of returns to scale. So this is the same law, it's similar, but it has been named differently. In the short run, it is known as the law of variable proportion, and in the long run, it is known as the law of returns to scale. and it is studied assuming that all the factors are variable in the long run. So we know every law is based on certain assumptions. So this law is also based on certain assumptions. The first one is one factor is variable and the other factors are constant. So the variable factor is labor and the constant factor is capital. And labor is homogeneous in nature. Homogeneous is like it's similar in form, efficiency, output, existence, everything. It is similar. Then technology remains constant and input prices are given. These are the some basic assumptions of this law. Now, here is the law of variable proportion. So there are different types of production, and labor is the variable factor. So we have taken labor as the increasing factor. So it's 1, 2 till 12. So in the first column you can see the total production. In the second is the marginal product. In the third is the average product. Okay. So let us start with total production. So for one labor, the total production is 24. For second labor, it's 72. For 3 labors, it's 138. For 4, it's 216. And it goes on increasing until the 10th labor. For 10 labors, it is 600. Okay. But for the 11th labor, it is 594. And for the 12th labor, it is even lower. It's 552. So this column is clear to everybody? You can just have a look at it. The first column, total production column. Okay. Any doubt, anyone? In this one, this column, the first one, if you are done with this, then we go to the next. Okay. So now we come to the next one. That is the marginal product. You understand the meaning of the word marginal? Marginal means, what does that mean, marginal? If you remember from your previous class, marginal. Yeah, any addition. Okay. Yes, Raji. Marginal means addition to the total by the use of one extra unit. Okay. Like when we go from the 5th to the 6th one. So from what is the change in the total output from 5th to 6th? That is the marginal product. So now we come to the second column, that is marginal. So we see for the first unit, the marginal production is 24. Actually for the, yes Dilshan, marginal production means, the term marginal means addition to the total with the consumption of one extra unit. Okay, I'll just write it on the whiteboard. Just a second. Okay, so this is the meaning of the word marginal. When there is addition to the total, like for example, for 5 units, the production is 15. Then for 6 units, the production is 18. So marginal in this case is 18 minus 15. That is how much? 3. Okay. Is that clear, Dilshan? This is the meaning of the word marginal in economics. It can be marginal consumption. It can be marginal production. Actually, I didn't explain in detail because we discussed it when we did the that law of diminishing returns, consumer utility, that chapter. So now coming to the marginal production, you can see for the first unit the marginal production is 24. Actually, the marginal production should have been here. Rajiv, what should have been the marginal production for the first unit? Sudhajit, what do you think? Kelvin? Yes, it should have been 0. Actually, it should have been 0. Sabha, any problem with your net? Okay. So, now we go to the second one. For the second one, it's 48. Now, this 48 is coming from this. When we are going from the first to the second unit, the production is going from 24 to 72. So, 72 minus 24, that is 48. For the third one, that is the difference between the third and the second unit is the marginal production for the third unit. Okay. For the fourth one, 216 minus 138, that is 78. So this is how we are calculating it. So till the fifth unit, it is continuously increasing. Okay. It is going up 24, 48, 66, 78 and 84. But at the sixth unit, it is 84 only. For the sixth unit, it is for the fourth, from fourth to fifth and from fifth to sixth, it is the same. Now, after that, from seventh unit onwards, it is continuously decreasing. From 78, it's going to 66, then 48, then 24. It is going down. And from the 11th unit onwards, it is becoming negative. It's minus 6 and then minus 42. So this is the marginal production. Okay. So just read this column, and if you have any doubt, please clarify that. Everybody, please read it properly. Read your calculations, and any doubt, please clarify. Okay, have you all read marginal product? What about others? Satya, Muhammad, Dilshan, Sirajit, Kelvin, Najo, Nitin, Muhammad, Joy, Rajiv. Any doubts? Everything is clear? Okay. So now we go to the next one. That is the average product. Now average product is like the total production divided by the number of units. So for the first one, it's 24 because 24 is the total production and 1 is the labor. Then 72 divided by 2, 36. 138 divided by 3, 46. Alright, so this way the whole column is made, and we can see that the average production is also going up. Continuously it is also increasing till the 8th unit, till the 7th unit. It is continuously going up, isn't it? But at the 8th unit it is stagnant, it is 66 only, and from 9th unit onwards it is declining. From 66 it's coming to 64, then 60, then 54 and 46. So it's now going down, isn't it? Clear? Is there a problem with my voice? Okay, just a second. Okay, so this is the average production column. So when we compare this marginal product and average product, we see that they both are increasing to a certain point, but at a certain point they both are stagnant and they both are then declining, and finally the marginal product is going even to the negative. So we need to compare these two columns because we have to plot them on a graph paper, and once we plot them we get the various stages of the law of diminishing marginal returns or the law of variable returns. So and one noticeable thing is, just compare these two things, these two columns, and can you find anything interesting in these two? Anything that is like striking? Hi Srinath, you joined very late today? Uh, 5 and 6 are same. No, there is one thing that that is there, and which is that the marginal product is increasing, but marginal product is increasing at a very higher rate as compared to the average product. Can you see that? It is 48 and this is 36. This is 66 and it is only 46. It is 78 and it is 54. It has reached 84 and it is still on 60. So it is continuously increasing and increasing at a rate higher than that of the average product. Is that so? Asiya, Muhammad, Dilshan, Surajit, Kelvin, Majo, Nitin, Muhammad, Joy, Rajiv, 11th and 12th. Yeah, 11th and 12th also I'm explaining. This one, the marginal product column, Surajit. Okay, just see. The total production for the 10th unit is 600 and for the 11th unit it's 594. So what do? We subtract 594, we subtract 600 from 594. So the answer is minus 6. Then 552 minus 594. The answer is minus 42. Okay. So this is the calculation for the 11th and the 12th unit. So there is a drastic negative production now. So this is the tendency of the marginal production. The marginal production increases at a rate very fast than the average product. It increases at a higher rate, and when it declines at a faster rate, and finally it becomes negative. You can see that the average product has not become negative. It is still positive. It is not negative. But marginal product has turned negative for the 11th and the 12th unit. So this is the major difference between the two. Okay. So based on this type of production possibilities for a firm, the whole production process has been divided into three groups. One is the stage of increasing returns. Yes. The second is the diminishing returns, and the third is the negative returns. So increasing returns. As far as the production is going up, both marginal and average, we can say it's the stage of increasing returns. So till the 6th unit, it is manageable. It is advisable to produce till the 6th unit, because at the 6th unit also the firm is not incurring a lot of loss. It is still on the same production. It's 84 over here also marginal, and average is 64. So it's increasing returns. Then beyond that, this is diminishing returns. From 66 we are coming to 60 in the 4 units. 66, 66, then 64 and 60. This is the stage of diminishing returns. And the third one is the stage of negative returns. Okay. So there are three types of stages, 3 stages in this whole production process. Is it clear? Increasing, diminishing and negative. Everybody? Okay. So they are also known as stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. Alright. So now, yes Prabha. The basic idea behind this is to help the firm in deciding at which level of production they should stop the production. That is the basic idea. And looking at this, we can say from a firm's point of view, producing till 5th unit is the best, because for the 6th unit also the marginal product is 0. It is 84 and 84. No. It's fine till 6th unit. Yes, it's fine. It's not 0. It is coming from 300 to 384. So it is okay till 6th unit. After that, the increasing of labor will not give favorable results to the firm. Okay. So now, how? Okay, just look at this. When we are employing the 7th labor, the marginal product is going down from 84 to 78, isn't it? Then for the 8th labor, it is coming from 78 to 66. And average production is also declining. So that is why it is not advisable to go beyond the 6th labor for production. Is it clear? Prabha now. Yeah. Now just see, if you plot it on a graph paper, if you plot it in the form of a chart, graph. So the total production curve will look something like this. It will increase. It will reach its highest point and it will reach its highest point and then it will start declining. Okay. This is it, and in the same we can plot the average and the marginal cost curve as well. marginal production curve as well. That is done in the second part. You can see that. So what is the analysis? It says the total production rises at an increasing rate till the employment of the 5th worker. Beyond the 6th worker until the 10th worker, total production increases, but the rate of increase begins to fall. Let us see. From the 6th till the 10th labor, the production is increasing from 384 to 462, then 528, 576. But the rate of increase is going down. The volume is going down. From 84, it has come to 78, 66, 48, 24. Isn't it? Why are others not answering? What happened to others? Joy, Muhammad, Majo, Kelvin. What is wrong with you now? Surajit, Dilshan. Okay. Then the total production turns negative from the 11th worker onwards. So this shows the law of diminishing marginal returns. Now for the 11th worker, it is going down. This is 11th worker. So from 600 it is coming to 594, and from 594 it is 540, 552. So this is now declining. It's going negative. You can see in the marginal production column. It's negative. So there's no point in manufacturing beyond the 6th unit. Okay. So this is clear, the law of diminishing marginal returns to everybody. So we can say there are 3 stages in the law of diminishing returns. The stage of increasing returns, the stage of decreasing returns, and the stage of negative returns. Now this panel B represents the marginal and the average productivity curves of the labor. You can see, so average and marginal production is shown here. This is the unit of labor. So this is for the marginal production, this one, and this is for the average production. So we can see that the marginal production curve is rising, and it is rising at a rate higher than the average production curve. Isn't it? It is above the average production line. Can you see that? So it increases at a very high rate, and then it starts decreasing also at a very high rate. This is a little stagnant. You can see that APL. This is a little what? A little stagnant. But this is now coming down very quickly, and it has reached a stage when it has now become negative. Once it is going down the x-axis, it is negative. Isn't it? So this is the analysis of the law of variable proportions. This law is applicable in the short term. Any doubts till now? Anything you want to ask? Okay. So now let us discuss these stages in detail. So this is the stage of increasing returns, or the stage 1. In this, the total production increases at an increasing rate because the fixed factor is abundant and the variable factor is inadequate. Hence, the K, that is the capital, gets utilized better than with every additional unit of labor. Like when we are putting more and more labor, so the fixed factor of production is getting very well utilized. Then second is the stage 2. In this, the total production continues to increase but at a diminishing rate. And stage 3 is total production begins to decline. The capital becomes scarce as compared to a variable factor. Hence, overutilization of capital and setting in of diminishing returns. Like if we are going to overuse a machinery, obviously the machine will not give favorable results to us after a particular stage. So this is what happening in the stage 3. We are using the fixed factor, that is capital, beyond its limit. So now it is becoming scarce, and that is why the diminishing returns are now applicable. Now what are the reasons for the 3 stages? Indivisibility and inelasticity of the fixed factor, and imperfect substitutability between K and L. Fixed factor, that is the capital, it is indivisible. You cannot break a machine, isn't it? So it's indivisible, and it's inelastic. You cannot increase or decrease it in the short span of time. And then there is no relationship between the machine and the labor. We need a labor to work on that capital, that is the machine. Did you get that? It is very similar to what we did in the law of diminishing marginal utility of the consumer. As they were consuming more and more units of the food or water, anything, then what was happening? Our satisfaction point was reached, and our satisfaction level from each additional unit was going down, isn't it? So similar is the case in this case also. Similar picture is there. We are producing more and more units. So what is happening? We have already reached our optimum production, and now by making additional production, the production level is definitely going to go down. Alright? So the two laws are very similar by nature. Just compare it with that, so it will be very easy for you to understand. Alright? You all are looking little blank. Any problems? Okay. But its promptness in responding is not there. Tired. Alright. So let's now see what is the significance of this law. Why do we study it? What is its purpose? The first is, it's an empirical law, frequently observed in, I know it's difficult to understand. So what is the best way to do this is, one is you can watch this PPT, you can watch the recording of the class, okay? And the second is, once you are over with the class and once you get time, just go through this law in your book, okay? Your teaching material, that is going to help you. Go through your teaching material, this portion, and so that in the next class you can clarify your doubts if you have any. Okay? Is it fine? This is, now the topics will be difficult. Demand and supply was a very easy topic. Now the things will be very difficult. It's like first there will be this, then we'll be going to the firms, the different market conditions, monopoly, perfect competition and all. So all that is difficult to understand. So you need to be, one thing is that you need to be very regular, and other thing is you need to follow your teaching material as well. Then you will have a very clear understanding of this. So now the second is particularly in agriculture, where natural factors play an important role are limited. So in this case, we have to be, this is the law which helps in agriculture production. Then it helps the manager in identifying the rational and irrational stages of operation. Yes. It will not be advisable to continue with the production without any point. It provides an answer to the questions such as how much to produce, what number of workers to employ in order to maximize the output. Okay, what should be the combination of the fixed and the variable factors that will give us the optimum output. That all is very important when we are focusing and when we are thinking from the point of view of a firm. So in this example, the firm should employ a minimum of 7 workers and a maximum of 10 workers, because total production is still rising till the 10th worker. Beyond the 10th worker, the production is going down. Let us see one. Yes. The best is to stop at labor number 7, because from labor number 7 onwards, the productivity is declining. Isn't it? The marginal productivity is going down. But in dire circumstances, we can carry on till the 10th labor, because till the 10th labor, the total production is increasing. It is still increasing. If only machines are working, no labor in that case. So we are not going to consider such a case, Prabha. Okay? And like even if a machine is working, a machine has its own capacity and we need man-force to run that machine. Isn't it? One person can operate that machine, and what if we are employing 5 persons for that machine? It's not advisable to do that. That is all. So this is just to have an idea of the level of production that is advisable to the firm. So this is it. Now stage 3 has a very high LK ratio. LK ratio means labor and capital ratio. So as a result, additional workers not only prove unproductive but also cause a decline in the total production. Yes, we saw that the marginal productivity was continuously declining, and after the 10th labor it became negative. For the 11th and the 12th labor it was negative. So there is no point in employing more labor. In stage 1, the capital is still presumably underutilized. So a firm operating in stage 1 has to increase L, and that in stage 3 has to decrease the labor. Okay. So if a firm is operating in stage 1, it should increase its labor. That is, if we are discussing from the point of view of a firm. This topic is still very incomplete. We discussed only about the short run, in which one factor of production was variable. Now there is second part to it, that is a stage when 2 production factors are there, which are variable by nature. Okay, we can change both of them. We can change labor also, and we can change capital also. What are we going to do then? So that is the second level of total this production function. But I won't be doing that today. It's no point in doing that. So what I will do is I'll just revise with the things that we have done today with you all, so that we can just think like we can just identify if we are having any problems. All right. So we can start with this. What is the total production? No, okay. First, let us start with this. What is production function? What is the meaning of production function? Everybody. Yeah, Rajiv, that is right, but that is production. That is the definition to production. I asked production function, and it's my mistake. I didn't mention it in the beginning. Production function is the relationship between the output and input. It is the function which shows the relationship between the input and the output. Okay. And what is the equation for production function? What is the equation? I'll write it over here. Q is a function of, Q is the output. It is a function of K, L and LA. Okay. So K is the capital, L is the, yes, Rajiv, K, L, LA. K is the capital, L is the land, and LA is the labor. It's a function of that. Now, based on the firm, the production is divided into two terms. One is the short term and the other is the long term. So today we discuss only about the short term. So what is the peculiarity of the short term? As far as the factors of production are concerned, how many factors of production are variable in the short run? Prabha, 6. 6 factors are variable. Kelvin says 3. No. Rajiv says 1. Yes, that's the right answer. This one factor of production is variable in the short run. And which factor is that? I think it's land. Labor. Yes, it's labor which can be changed in the short period of time. Other factors cannot be changed. Okay. So, that is, just a second. So that is the factor which is variable. So why do we, whenever a firm starts its operation, whenever it starts production, then the firm is faced with 3 stages in the production. What are the 3 stages? The first stage is the stage of, wait 1 minute. I'll write it over here more clearly. The first stage is the stage of, oh, what is happening? Can you read? Can you see? Increasing return. This is stage 1. Okay. What is the peculiarity of this stage? In this stage, the total production, marginal production, and average production all increase. Okay. Then second is decreasing return. Are you all getting it? Decreasing returns is which stage? Stage number 3. Hello. 1 minute. Just a second. No, second stage is the decreasing stage of decreasing returns. So what is the peculiarity of this stage? This is stage number 2, and in this stage total production increases, but marginal production, what happens to it? It decreases, and the average production also decreases, isn't it? And the third one is the stage of negative returns. What happens in negative returns? The total production decreases, the marginal production becomes negative, and then average production also decreases. It doesn't become negative, but it decreases. So these are the 3 stages. And we noticed that when it was first stage, when marginal production and average production were increasing, the marginal production was increasing at a rate much faster than the average production, isn't it? So that was the stage of increasing returns. Then in the second stage, the marginal production started declining and average production also declined, but it was not declining as fast as the marginal production. That was the stage of second return, the decreasing returns. And then the stage 3, that is the stage of negative returns. In this stage, everything was decreasing and marginal production became negative. The total production and average production, they were declining. Is it clear? So this is what we basically studied today. It was just a revision, and it will be more clear, and if it's advisable, please go through your textbooks once, so that you can have a clear understanding of the topic, and you have any doubts, you can clarify it. And it is very important because all the topics are interrelated. You know, whatever you are studying today is going to be carried forward in the next class and in the other topics as well. So please be very sure about that. Okay, so I think I'll wind up the class now. Thanks for your time, everybody. So I hope you understood the topic. It will be more clear in the next class, and please clarify your doubts. Make sure you are reading the text. Thanks for your time. Good night. Bye. Take care. Please fill the feedback form, which you'll be getting at the end. Thanks for your time, everybody. Good night. Bye. Please fill the feedback form. You know, it's a course for us. Okay, bye. Good night. Take care.